Hello, friends. Welcome to another video challenge. I'm so excited to be here with you today. I'm Fabiola. Today, I'm going to be showing you how to add custom graphics to your Premiere Pro project for video podcasting. So the great thing about video podcasting is that you have the visual component and, you may be intimidated and feeling like, I don't know what I'm going to add to go along with these visuals in between stuff, transitions, intros, outros, that kind of stuff. Today, I'm going to show you how you can create custom graphics within Premiere Pro. So this is really beginner friendly. We're not going to be using After Effects today, so join me if you want to learn how to get started on that. Let's head on over to the project. Okay, so I'm giving it away here, but if you were watching the previous lesson, we have this wonderful little intro. I'm going to play it through and I'm going to play you this intro sequence, which I did create in After Effects, but then I'm going to show you how you can make something similar right here in Premiere Pro. So let's go. Here, I'm gonna do full screen here. We'll try it. And let me fill this in. Okay. So here's what we got. This is for my podcast, Draws in Spanish, where I interview Latinx artists. But you can do something similar for your podcast. Hey friends, you're listening to Draws. Okay, so that was real quick. I think it was about 9 seconds long. Oops. Hold on. I accidentally hit the wrong thing. Okay, so that was about 9 seconds long, I believe. We kind of, if you watch any of the previous lessons, right where that music kind of transitions, that's where I kick in the actual voiceover of me introing the podcast. So you would want to do a similar thing. And you're wondering, I don't have this intro sequence created. Well, today I'm going to show you how you can do something similar right here in Premiere Pro. This one's very basic, but we can also add in a ton of stuff as we work through this today. So here's the one that I'm thinking we're going to make today, but if you're watching in the chat and you have any other things you want to add to it, let's work through that. So here's a little sample. So we have just the text coming up. That's going in from underneath. That shouldn't be there. So it should be like that. So we just have the text, the subtext, and the cool thing about this, right now I'm in the editing workspace. So I wanted to make sure that we are still in the workspace that we last were working in. So if you're familiar here, we're in the editing workspace. We're going to move over to the captions and graphics workspace because this is going to give us all sorts of new windows to work in. So you can see here, if I select this podcast subtitle one, which I already made, but I'm going to break down how I made for you, you can suddenly insert all sorts of custom stuff. So let me show you how I created this. I'm going to move this over to the side and we're going to start from scratch here. I'm going to delete this intro sequence that I had made previously. And let's get started. So the first thing you want to do right now, there's nothing because we need to fill these 9 seconds of intro, right? So I want to pull up the chat here so we can all check it out. We need to add graphics. So the first thing I want to do is grab this rectangle tool and I'm going to just move these windows around a little bit so I can work a little bit better. I'm going to fit it maybe a touch smaller. Let's see. Okay, just like that. That way I can see all around it. And with this rectangle tool selected, I'm just going to click and drag this upper corner all the way through. And that's the previous color I had selected. So that's why it defaulted to that. But if you do this, it may give you a different color. Then I'm going to hit the selection tool and just expand this rectangle so it fully covers our program monitor. Okay, then I just aligned it centered just because I like to do that. I like to align things when I can, okay? The next thing that we're going to do is you can see here in our timeline that just by adding that rectangle, we've created this graphic clip. Now I'm just going to extend it to fill the entire 9 seconds that we're looking to fill, right? So this is a graphic clip now, and you can see it here in our graphics area if you double click it, but we want to get back to the effect controls where we can see all the details of this graphic that we're putting together. So if you've never used these features before, once you start working here in the captions and graphics panel, you'll see you have these essential graphics panel here to your right. This is kind of like what's controlling everything that goes into this graphic segment that you created. So right here we have our purple shape. I'm going to rename that purple shape. Then, because I don't want it to just be purple the entire time, I'm going to add another one. I'm going to right click. I'm going to duplicate. That way it's in the exact same position, but I'm going to change the fill. Let's pick. Yes, I'm into this green. Okay, so now this is green shape. Okay, and then I'm going to add one more orange shape. Okay, click the fill, change it to another color. If you want it to be a little brighter. Okay, great. That's what I'm working with. So now we have 3 shapes. They're all covering each other because we have no animation. So that's okay. Let's not think about the animations just yet. I like to add in all my elements first. So the one element I'm definitely going to have is a title, right? So I'm going to click and drag, and then I'm going to write. In my case, my podcast is called Draws in Spanish, but we can do faux podcast. That's our podcast for today. And then once you create this text element here, you'll get all these options down here where you can actually change the font and all that kind of stuff. So let's go for, ooh, that's kind of cute. I'm gonna pick that one and then change it to centered. Here's where you just, use your design taste to figure out what you want to create. And then I'm going to extend with this selection tool, extend that kind of the bounds. We move the anchor point to the center. I think that's just always convenient, but you can move the anchor points if you're familiar with it anywhere. But just to keep it simple, I'm going to center that horizontally and vertically. Okay, great. So that's that. Now I want the subtitle, right, where we talk about this podcast. So I'm going to duplicate it. I'm duplicating because I feel like that's easier than adding a whole new one, but you could just make another text box. From here, I'm going to write like the subtitle. So what's our faux podcast about? All things faux. Perfect. Faux and fun. Great. Perfect podcast idea. Now I'm going to make this because the subtext a little bit smaller, and maybe because I want this one to be accentuated, I'm going to make that one bold and this one smaller, something like that. That looks cute. And then I'm going to move it down. And now I'm going to select both of these and just center them, up here to make sure that I'm going to center them to my eye. I think is about there. Okay, great. So now we have all these elements, but we don't have them animated or anything, which is kind of boring, right? That's kind of boring. So I'm going to show you some really basic animation here. If you're not familiar with keyframing, this is going to be great for you. If you are familiar, stick around because you don't know what I'm about to do. Okay, so we have all these different, look over to your source panel. And now in the effects controls, if you're not seeing this, it's probably because you're maybe here, for some reason. So you want to click on, no, what have I done? Okay. You want to go over to effect controls and click the clip selected. If you're not seeing it, if you just see that, it's because you don't have the clip selected. So I'm trying to walk you through anything that may be happening if this is your first time working through this. So once you have that clip selected, you'll see that right now, all of our elements are visible. And they're all visible at the same time. So that's why there's no fun animation happening. The way that you accomplish a fun little animation is to, scale things and just play with these settings so things appear and disappear and move around at different times. So the first thing that I'm going to work with, I'm going to take away the text, right? Okay. So now we're just working with our shapes. I want to have the purple shape come in, and then the purple shape, and then the green shape to come in, and the orange shape to come in according to the time. So what I'm going to quickly do here is mark some in and out points. So I'm going to clear this previous one so that you're not getting confused. So let me clear these markers, clear markers. Okay. Now with the timeline selected, not the clip, just the timeline selected, I'm going to play it and kind of mark some points, some beats, like some markers, so that I know where I want to time the animation to. So all you're going to have to do is press play. And then as you hear the beat, you want to click M on your keyboard to set a marker. Okay, so I set a ton of markers. Now we don't need to animate to all of these markers, right? Because it's a lot of them. So I'm going to probably do every other and see how that works out. But I'm going to select that graphic clip once again, and then we'll start animating these shapes. So with it visible, just, we want to mark this keyframe so that the position is where it needs to be, but then maybe, and the scale, but then right before that, maybe we just have it be 0, the scale 0. We don't need to change the position actually, so we could delete that keyframe. So now in this segment, we start at purple and then magically green goes on at that marker. So I'm going to move to the next marker and do the same for orange. I'm going to copy actually the previous keyframes that I did for green. That way it's like the exact same. You can just click and drag to copy, move over to orange, go to the area that you want it to be. So I'm messing with scale here, and then, oops, click to make a keyframe, and then you can paste. Oh, that's not working for me, but it's okay. We can just go a little bit ahead in the timeline and make the scale 0. And so you're basically telling Premiere that you want it from this point in the timeline to this point, go from 0 to 100. And that's why it quickly zooms out. Now there's a million ways you can add even more effects, but that's just like a very simple way to add some sort of animation. And you can do that repeatedly for all the shapes that you have in your segment. Now I'm going to also go ahead and do it with the text. So right here, I think we need to move. We were at this point. So now I want it to pop in here. So I'm going to do the same thing here in the transform section. I'm going to show this, right? Because I had it hidden here. So you click that eye to show it. And then I'm going to mess with the scale. So I'm going to click there. And then right before, I'm just going to hit 0. Now, if you wanted to play with how fast that comes in, you can. I'm going to show you that right now. So that's really quick, which I kind of like. I think it looks like interesting that way, but you could move this one key point over and then suddenly it's coming in a lot slower, right? So you can play with all these keyframes, and I'm trying to show you something really simple here. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to scoot over 2 markers and do the same thing to the subtext. So I'm going to click the eyeball so I can see it, hit the scale keyframe, and then right before it, I'm going to hit 0. So whenever you make a change to this one of these properties, it'll make a keyframe with that new property. So let's play it all the way through, you guys. All right, so that's how it would look. Now you can play with all of these settings, the timing there, maybe the rhythm's a little off, but you can see what I mean by all the little animations. Now, if you have any questions, please share them in the chat. I'm happy to answer them. Hello, Misty. Hello, Anika, for being here. Laura, once again, thanks for joining. If you have any questions for me, just let me know and I'm happy to answer them. So that is like a very simple intro, and you can move all of these properties around so that you get the animation that you want and the timing that you want according to the song for your intro. So that's what I think is kind of fun. And you can, of course, I'm going to mute this for 1 second so you don't hear all that. You can, of course, change all of these fonts, customize it to your branding, which I think makes it even more interesting. Okay, so that's something for a really simple intro if you want to get started with your video podcast. Now, another thing, let me play through One more thing. The other cool thing about creating kind of graphics like this is that then if you go into your effects right here, effects, if you're not finding that window, just look for it here in the windows. You'll see it, effects. You can add cool transitions. So if you go to video transitions and then let's say iris, right? We can do like iris round, drag that right here between these two segments. Oops. And we'll get this really cool effect between the intro and then the following clip. Hey friends, the music was off, so it didn't sound as exciting, but hey friends, like that. And so that's the cool thing about creating in these graphics is that you can then add effects to it right in Premiere Pro without having to like manually animate all of those effects, which is really, really key if you are just starting out and you want to kind of make this process repeatable and easily to kind of plug and play. Okay, then the other one I want to show you is, for example, in my podcast, I interview someone. So I'm the host and then I have a guest. And so I like to have, if you're going to do a video podcast, some sort of visual introduction, right? So here's a little example that I have in mind. I'm your host, Fabiola Lara. That's Fabiola Lara. This is not, there we go. Lara. I'm an illustrator and podcaster based in Philly, and on this show, Draws in Spanish, I chat with Latinx. So I'm going to show you how you can quickly create this kind of lower third and customize it so it fits your branding. It doesn't have to be anyone else's kind of lower third. It can be unique to you. So I'm going to go ahead and maybe move this over. I'm going to move this over here and we're going to recreate it. So what you're going to do to make something like that. And again, remember that you can make all of these things really custom to your project. So the first thing that you want to do, you want to have nothing selected. And then I'm going to once again move these panels around. Okay, hit this rectangle tool. And if you hold it, you'll get some options for different shapes. I'm going to once again use the rectangle tool, but you can just make a small rectangle. I'm going to make one like that. I'm going to add a stroke, say it's black. You can even adjust the stroke size right here. I'm going to hit 2. I think I like that. Or you could let's do 5. So it's a little bit more noticeable. And I'm going to do like a brown stroke right there. Okay. Then if you want to, you can also use these properties to adjust it. So this is telling it the width and the height of this box. So you can adjust and fine tune right there and add some cool curved corners. So I'm going to do 15. Maybe I want some more. Okay. So you can type in here or you can click and drag to adjust those settings. Okay, cute. Now we need like text, right? So I'm going to hit type tool. I'm going to click and drag. And I've created this box. And I think right now my text is so big that it's not even previewing. So let's do that. Okay. And let me see, where's my text? I think that it's not previewing. Let me see. There it is. Okay. So make sure your text box is big enough that you can actually see the text that you're writing. So you don't feel like you're going a little bit crazy. Okay. So I'm going to write my name. And I'm using the same font that we used before, right? Because branding, right? I want to be consistent. So it would be like that. You can always extend these boxes using the selection arrow. Okay. And I had hidden the shape when I was confused, but now I displayed it once again. And I'm going to move this text just with that direct selection tool so that it fits right in that box. Okay, wonderful. And now I'm going to duplicate it. And then with the arrow, move it down. And I actually want this one to be smaller, right? And I want it to be regular. And now here I can write like host and illustrator. And maybe that's still a little too big, right? So it's competing with the name. So I'm gonna make it real small. Okay, like that. Okay, that looks good. Maybe I'll move it down a touch. And now the box feels like it's a little too big. So I'm going to make it a little smaller. So this comes down to design eye, right? Like how you want your lower thirds to look. I think like that looks good. Okay, I'm happy with that. But right now it just kind of plops on the minute while I'm talking, it just kind of like pops on the screen, which doesn't feel really very sophisticated or professional or fancy. It would do though, to be honest. But I want to show you how you can add some effects. So this way that you can add an effect is just by going into the video transitions. And I like to use white for this one because I feel like it just looks cool. So I'm going to put it in the beginning, drag it to the beginning, and I'm dragging it to the end. And remember, you can also extend this graphic to last as long as you want, which is the cool thing. So now if we play it through, sweet, amazing, consistent. I like it. Okay. Now, the other thing that we can do, I'm going to delete these previous ones, is like I want to use the similar effect when my guest comes in, right? So when my guest is talking and introducing themselves, which I'm going to hit play. Okay. So I'm going to add the audio here so we can see where this would come in. I think it's around here.
Good. I have a good day.
Hello, Eugenia. How are you doing today? How's your day?
I have the day to myself to do
Somewhere
what I want.
around here. Before we get into that, I wanted to ask you, to tell me a little bit about just a little bit.
I grew up in Oak Park.
So I think it's around here, so that we know. I'm like trying to find it so I can time it correctly
and everything. Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in Oak Park, which is a suburb.
Okay, so let's just say it goes there. What I'm going to do is hit Option. I'm going to not have anything selected. Then I'm going to hit Option, hold it down, click, and then hit Shift and drag. Actually, don't hit Shift, just drag. So Option, click, and drag. And then you'll duplicate that exact graphic, right? I'm going to put it where I want, which we're going to say is right there. Right here, let's say. No, that's me talking. Right there. Okay, let's add it there. And then the cool thing is these things are totally customizable, right? So that's not their name. This is the guest that I'm interviewing, and name's Eugenia Vitti, amazing illustrator. Definitely go check her out. And she makes cool comics. So guest, I can write guest, or I could write comic artist, whatever title I want to give them, whatever title they want to give me. And then you can also change the color here, right? So all these things are still flexible. So I'm going to change it. That looks a little hard to read, but like that. Okay, wonderful. And it has the same animation.
Argentina. It's very confusing. My parents are from Argentina.
Boom.
But I was born.
So that's really cool. And I'm going to show you one more trick, right? Because if you're creating a video podcast, you want every episode to be consistent, right? But I don't want you to have to create these every single time manually. That seems like a waste of time. So if you just zoom in here, your timeline, I'm zooming in mostly so you can see, but you just right click and hit export as motion graphics template. Then I'm going to browse where I save it. So I'm going to save it just right in this project folder, but you should save it in a folder called Mogerts, which is in your project files. So go ahead and download those project files. You'll see everything's neatly organized, but I'm going to write lower third names. That's what I'm just going to call it. Maybe there's a better word for it. Hit OK. All right. So that's been exported, right? So it's in my actual Finder as a file. Let's go look for it. It's right in here. Oops, you can see it right here. Lower third names .mogert. Okay, so what you're going to do with this file is in the same kind of workspace when you're editing your new episode, you're going to hit Browse and then go to the bottom right here, Install Motion Graphics Template, upload this lower third names one, the one that we just created, hit Open. Okay, then search for it. So lower third. Well, here's the one example I have, but the one that we were looking for, got to get the exact name here. Okay. Right there. And then you can drag it into any project that you have in the future and add those effects that you want. Maybe the next time maybe every time you use wipe and it always wipes in, maybe sometime you want it to be barn doors for some reason. So then it comes in differently. Interesting. Okay, according to the anchor point that you can set in the Essential Graphics panel. So that is a really cool way to do that. And you can do the same stuff with any of these graphics that you create within Premiere Pro so that you can build assets for yourself for future podcast episodes. Now, the other one that I think is handy to have is an outro. So let me show you a really basic outro. You can get fancy with it. I just want to show you kind of something basic you can start with and then start getting fancier as you go along, get more comfortable creating these custom graphics. So I'm going to make another rectangle. I feel like everything today is starting with a rectangle, but you could also do a color map, but I'm just, this makes sense for me. Okay, great. I'm going to move it over so it's at the end of our podcast episode. And you can once again hit the text tool, make another one, and write, "Thanks for watching." I'm going to center that text, and then I'm going to duplicate it here. I'm going to drag it down. I'm going to say, "Remember to hit subscribe." And if this is for YouTube, which is what I'm pretending it's for right now, you would have the YouTube UI kind of displays a video to the left, a video to the right, and kind of your icon in the center. So that's kind of what I'm preparing this for. And now I'm just, tweaking where I want everything to sit right about there. And that's how you can create a really simple outro. I mean, this one's super simple, but you can add other shapes to it and start experimenting with the animation for all of those in the same way that we did with the intro. All right, guys, I hope you guys learned so much about how to create these custom graphics that you can turn into MOLGRT files. That way you can reuse them for all of your video podcast episodes. Keep things consistent, keep it simple, and get started. Because the biggest thing is I want you out there actually making your video podcast and not feel like you don't know how to get all those fine little details done. This is how you do it, and keep it simple, make it look cute, and just repeat it every single time. If you have any questions, bring them on over. And thanks so much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.